Despite the losses of Arvell, Reese, Caleb Downs, and several good players to the National Football League, Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin give me the thought that Ohio State should be number one in the 2026 poll.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day, right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We're going to be discussing all things Ohio State Buckeyes and everything that comes along with Ohio State's offseason, and basically position by position breakdown. That's the thing we're going to get to at the end. We're going to go through everything from quarterback all the way through safety, some of the players that maybe you didn't know they added or lost. That will all be a part of it. And in the middle of the show, we're going to talk about a few questions, definitely not Jeremiah Smith as a question, but about how Ohio State could be picked apart. Where are the areas that they might be vulnerable? I have a few questions about that, especially up the middle on defense. Talk a little bit about offensive line and the mentality of being able to come back stronger than ever after they came up short in 2025. But to start, if you take nothing else away from this podcast, the following is my take. The reason that I'm at least initially, keyword initially, ranking Ohio State #1 preseason 2026 is Jeremiah Smith being thrown to by Julian Sayin. It's not a rocket science adventure. These are two elite players. They have history now. They understand each other. Sayin's probably going to be even more developed mentally on the chalkboard, etc., working with Ryan Day and a very good coaching staff. There's going to be Brandon Ennis coming back. There's going to be several other guys that are filling in. And oh, by the way, that Bo Jackson guy gives them play action opportunities. It will be a very difficult task for any defense, Texas, Notre Dame, Alabama, Miami, whatever team they end up playing in the playoffs. And yes, they will be in the playoffs despite a tough schedule. That's one of the other possible pitfalls for Ohio State. They are going to be a major college football playoff championship contender, and I have them #1. So let's break down why I think Jeremiah is that guy. And I don't even care about his stats. Like, he was elite this past year. You can look him up. Have at it. Before I put up my questions in segment 2, understand the following about Jeremiah. I was blessed to have the opportunity to cover him in multiple ways during his high school days, when he played at Chaminade Madonna, when he also played with SFE, arguably the best overall 7-on-7 program of the last 7 to 10 years. He's been around elite players and excelled and stood out, not just during game day. The most important reason that I thought Jeremiah was, the #1 player coming out at the high school ranks was the way he prepared when he was not in pads, the way he prepared even before he got completely dressed. To put it in perspective, I went to a pylon tournament once, and Jeremiah and SFE was there, and it was a cold day, but Jeremiah still did his routine the way Jeremiah did it, and he didn't care who was there. This is what I do, and he sets a standard. They didn't have to ask him to go stretch. They didn't have to ask him to do anything, and that mentality takes over. He was 3 feet in front of me doing his stretches, shirt off, same pads or same process. He had his headphones on. If I needed to speak to him, he would say something, or Andrew Ivins, anybody else that was there, but he did what he did. Doesn't say much. He takes care of business. And just to put it in perspective, he does talk when needed, but usually with his play. A few guys happen to be mouthing him. By the way, don't poke the bear. He took the football off not one, but 2 players' heads the next play in the back of the end zone. I got the photo. It's one of the best photos I ever took at a 7-on tournament or anything else. It's hilarious. And he does that to college guys too. He runs by people because he's been clocked at 23 miles an hour despite being 220 pounds. And he's a very good route runner. He understands how to get off bump. He understands how to break off routes. Whatever he needs to do, he adapts. He's as motivated as anybody I've ever seen. And that type of leadership, again, quiet guy, but that type of leadership will help Ohio State in many, many different ways. The one thing that I'm still curious about with him, now that Tate has headed on to the NFL, is he going to be a guy that ends up getting more targets? Or are they going to use him differently? Which positions are they going to play him at? That's just for fun down the road. But if nothing else, I know that Jeremiah will take that next step. Now, as for the players that they have coming back, Ohio State is certainly, well, not just loaded, but they've got a lot of guys. This is not a difficult thing to figure out. Ohio State is loaded for a reason. They added, for whatever it's worth, just add another body to the roster. Justin Martin at quarterback. They also added Jacoby Jackson from Florida, good running back. He had 506 yards, 5.3 yards per tote this past season for the Gators, and 7 scores. James Peoples, who I think he started at the beginning of this past season, Ohio State, got passed up by the younger guys. He transferred to Penn State, ironically. And they added Kyle Parker from LSU, who had 31 catches, and he had 4 touchdowns this last year. He's got a couple of years of eligibility. But they also added Devin McEwen at a University Texas San Antonio. So a couple of talented guys. McEwen had 65 catches and 8 scores this past year. He's got 1 year left. I think he's going to be important. Bryson Rogers, among others, has transferred out. He's going to USF. They lost a couple of guys, Graham and whatnot, to Notre Dame. The depth may not be quite the same, but adding Parker and McEwen, I think with Ennis, that should still be one of, if not the best, wide receiver groups in the country. We'll see how that goes. They also added 2 really good tight ends. Hunter Welsing out of Northwestern. He's getting a 7th year. 28 catches, 296 yards, 10.6 and 2 scores. He had a run blocking grade of only 50.6, so he's definitely more of a receiver. Mason Williams comes over from the University of Ohio, 6'5", 258. He's got 2 years left, 26 catches, 276 yards, 10.6 and 3 scores. Run blocking grade is 66.7, so I expect him to play a lot. They lost Jelani Thurman. He transferred to North Carolina. He played in 10 games, more of a flex tight end. Offensive line, this is where I was a little surprised. I need to learn more, and I need to see their spring game, get some reports from people around that program, like a Bill Kurelik or somebody commenting. They lost 5 guys, including one of the kids they brought in last year as a transfer. But what my guy Jay Stevens over at Locked On Buckeyes told me, he thinks that's going to be a really good group. They've got just about everybody back. They've got enough people coming up the ranks. They should be really good. My question there is and we'll get to this in the second segment, is that a group that's going to be good enough? Because they got their butts kicked for the most part against Miami up front, and that was the difference in the game. Now, Miami, they beat up on most teams. Even Indiana struggled with them at times, and it wasn't easy for the Hoosiers to score. And remember, they got a punt block to score, or they may not have won that game, and Miami might have been the national champs. But Indiana was probably the one that handled them the best, I would say. We'll see how that goes this next year. But if Ohio State's O-line is where it truly needs to be, it's going to be hard for me to imagine that the Buckeyes are not going to be at least top 3. If their O-line's even as good as it was last year, because, again, the skill talent's ridiculous. We'll talk about defense and some other questions or possible weaknesses for the Buckeyes after the break. That is next right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Last call for football on FanDuel for this year. We got one more Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. It is Super Bowl 60. That's right. One last kickoff, the final chance to get in all the action before NFL season officially comes to a close. FanDuel is going to get you right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest football game and television event of the year. Whether you're backing your favorite team, whether you're for the Patriots, maybe you're riding with the Seahawks, whatever it may be, go with who you want. Maybe you're just going to play the halftime score, maybe a quarter score. Maybe you're going to root for Drake May to throw for 300 yards. Whatever it is, you can do whatever you want with FanDuel. And here's where it gets kind of fun. You can turn all these different things into different kinds of storylines. And now, if you're a new customer, you can also get $5 on one bet and win $200 in bonus bets. If you win, you can make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also very happy about everything that's going on with the Everydayer Club. If you have not joined, please check it out in the description down below. Locked On has set us up $5 a month or $50 for the year, whichever you want to do. Take your audio on the go with no ads. That's it. Ad-free listening, $5 or $50 for the year. So if you're going to the grocery store or going to the gym or anywhere else, you can get them for free. And there's also a Discord and more. Just check out the description down below. All right, let's talk about some questions here. I have a few that I think need to be addressed, and then we'll get into the defensive side too, just to kind of go through the stats as I put this up here. This is kind of fun for me because not everybody realizes just how hard it is to be year to year really good. And on top of that, look at the road schedule for the Buckeyes. I'm doing this right before the Big Ten does its exact dates, so I didn't put those up in case you're listening to this later. They're doing that tonight. I'm doing this podcast a little bit before that. But look at it this way. Texas, Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, USC. Is it the hardest road slate in college football? It's certainly up there because you had the Longhorns. I don't think anybody expected Indiana to be like they are, but they were one of the teams to beat Ohio State last year, and obviously they were the defending champs at 16-0. Iowa's a tough place to play. Nebraska, I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but it's still not the easiest place to play. And USC, they got Maeva back. This will be his third year starting, and they've gotten better in the trenches. I think this top of my head, that's probably the hardest road slate. So let's just put that to the side. We need to see how everybody finishes, keywords finish, not where they're at now, finishes with their portal, loses this guy, that guy, NFL draft. Need to kind of sum it all up in the next month before we really know, but it'd be pretty hard to be more difficult on the road than the Bucs. Again, as I mentioned right before the break, O-line. Does it step up in big games? Against 8 or 9 of their opponents, it probably won't matter. Even Nebraska, I don't think they'll handle what's going on with Ohio State's O-line. It's good enough. And, they just lost one of their key guys to Miami. That's not going to help Nebraska. USC, Texas, Indiana, Iowa, all those teams are going to have good D-lines. They're going to need to play at a high level in some of those games because what if Julian Sands at least a little bit off in that game? And then finally, my big question is defensively, and I'll dive into defensive stats next after this to kind of piggyback off of it. Replacing Caleb Downs, you got McDonald in the middle, he's a unanimous All-American. Arvell Reese, middle linebacker, straight up the middle. You always want to be good up the middle in college football. Is there anybody that lost more talent at nose guard, inside linebacker, and safety than Ohio State? I think not. That will not be easy. But they've recruited at an elite level in the secondary. D-line, they've added pieces. I got James Smith, Clay Rusaw coming in, among others. They're going to be good up front again. They got some guys back, Kenyatta's back, etc. They've got players up front. In their secondary, they've recruited so well. I'm not super worried about it. They've got an elite, ironically, Caleb Downs' relative, as a DB coach, that they're going to be fine there. But in those big games, kind of like I was talking about with the O-line, there's no way you can replace Caleb Downs. He's as smart a player as I've ever scouted. When I saw him in high school, great kid, and he was literally like coaching guys up in practice. Coaches just kind of let him do what he did. He was starter at Bama, led him in tackles as a freshman, and then transferred to Ohio State and was arguably the best pure football player in the country the last 2 years, along with the guy that I've got on the screen for those of you watching this on YouTube. That would be one Jeremiah Smith. So does Ohio State figure out a way to replace those guys in the big games? Again, 8 or 9 of the games, Ohio State, for the most part, is going to walk out there and smack teams. They just are. Illinois and teams like that they're playing that are good, especially coming to the shoe, that's 2 to 3 touchdowns. Prove me wrong. I don't think they have the players to cover Jeremiah. I don't think they have the players to cover Ennis, the tight ends, the running backs, Bo Jackson. They're going to be really, really good. To throw out another question, and this will be interesting. How much are they going to save Ennis and Smith? When they get up, are those guys going to come out even earlier to kind of save them? This is something I've heard about with a lot of teams, not just Ohio State. Comment in the chat or down below whenever you watch this. But are you thinking that this is the new trend as much as I am? You're not going to see like whatever games they play that are lower level, let's say. Jeremiah Smith might not play at a halftime. Why would they risk him? Possible first pick in the 2027 draft. He's that good. Definitely top 5. Why would they risk him on the field against a MAC team or anybody they get up early? If they get up 28-0 on some Big Ten team, you're going to see Jeremiah in the third quarter. He may ask to go back out on the field because that's the kind of competitor he is, but that's a really, really important thing to think about. Florida State, Texas, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, Virginia Tech, it doesn't matter the school. With your star players, if your goal is to make the playoff in any given year, these are the kinds of decisions you got to think about as the season progresses, as everything kind of goes along. It's not easy because, guys, I can tell you, just from having the opportunity to be around Jeremiah, the 5 to 10 times that I was, he doesn't like coming off the field, but you've got to make sure that they're not getting banged up in those scenarios. So let's get into some defensive stats and talk a little bit more about what's going on with Ohio State on that side of the ball, who they lose, and some of that involvement. Needless to say, offensive line is my one somewhat questionable area, but they also did a really good job adding to really good players at D-tackle. James Smith, 6'3", 297 pounds, 11 games started at Bama last year, 422 snaps, 11 pressures, a sack, 15 stops. He's got 1 year left for Ohio State. Then they got John Walker, who I think has an even higher ceiling. He played at UCF the last 3 years. He's got 2 years of eligibility, 6'4", a little over 320, 495 snaps, 10 pressures, a sack, 16 stops. He's got 2 years of eligibility, but I think with the players around him, look, I'm not going to mince words. UCF didn't have the guys around him to support what he was able to do, and he saw too many chips and double teams. He'd have put up massive numbers at UCF if they had one more guy that teams really thought was on the same level. He will probably have better stats at Ohio State, as goofy as that might sound, because James Smith's going to be next to him. You got Kenyatta on one end. Like, they have guys up front, and they've still got really good linebackers. They're going to be able to blitz from different angles. That defense is annoying. John's going to be single covered more. If there is one player that not enough people are talking about with Ohio State, it is John Walker. Very good player, a kid that I knew when he came up in Kissimmee, played at Osceola High School, really, really talented and just a great guy. I think he's going to have a massive year, and I think he's an even more important pickup than Smith because I think he will be more productive. Again, he had played 495 snaps last year, so that's very, very important. They did lose Jarquez Carter. He was a freshman last year to Miami, and Maxwell Roy, another talented young man, transferred out to UCLA. So it's 2 for 2. Quay Russaw comes over to Ohio State from Bama, just like James Smith. He had 3 starts in 9 games this past year, 403 snaps in 2024. He's got 2 years left. Another highly rated kid, 6 pressures, a sack, and 7 stops. Like, he's pretty talented. CJ Hicks transferred to USF. He had 151 snaps in 2024, but he'd kind of been passed over some. Christian Allegro from Wisconsin comes in. That's another really talented player for their front seven. He's a big dude, probably be the middle linebacker, 6'4", almost 250. He started 8 games last year, 449 snaps for the Badgers, 52 tackles, 10 pressures, 4 sacks, 20 stops. He had 3 starts the year before. He's got 1 year left, but I would imagine that Allegro was going to be one of the best players in the Big Ten. Much like with Walker, who's going to be playing right in front of him. When you put that much talent around a guy that's already productive, teams can't key on him. It's going to be very important. An interesting pickup for the Buckeyes is Dominic Kelly. He played in 6 games, only played 61 snaps, very highly recruited, a couple tackles and a pass breakup. Long-rangey guy, 6'1", 190. There's an opportunity for him to get on the field. He's going to have to earn it. Just remember the name Dominic Kelly. Cam Calhoun comes over from Bama, another guy, very similar, 6 foot, 180 pounds, played 51 snaps, 7 tackles, a stop, had a PBU. He's got a couple years left. They lost Aaron Scott to Oregon. He played in 8 games, played 106 snaps. And they also lost Bryce West to Wisconsin. He played in 3 games this past year, 29 snaps. There's a lot of talent there. So sometimes guys just get caught in the log jam. Who knows how good Scott or West will be where they go. Kelly or Calhoun, one of them or both get hit. It's just a ton of talent kind of changing around. We'll see how it goes for Ohio State. But they also added Earl Little from Florida State, guy that needs to tackle better, but he started 11 out of 12. I covered Florida State. He was a frustrating guy because he would make huge plays. He had 4 picks, but he also missed too many tackles because he tried to thump guys too much, and he plays better downhill. I think he's probably the perfect guy to play nickel or strong safety. Really talented, though, and if he can find his niche at Ohio State, there's a really good chance he'll be one of the better safeties in the Big Ten. Terry Moore comes over from Duke, 6'1", 200 pounds, 1,171 snaps the last couple of years. In 2024, he had 70 tackles. In 2025, he missed the season after an ACL, so we'll see what happens. He got hurt at the end of the 24 season in the Gator Bowl. That's when he got hurt, but he's got a year left. They did lose Fahim Delane, who's really talented. He's going to LSU. He's a 5-star with 3 years left. Malik Hartford transferred to UCLA, so we'll see. When we come back, I got a few more questions, and I want to take your thoughts from the chat and anything else that's going on. We'll talk a little overall college football. That is next, right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda, moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. It's pretty simple here. I highlighted Mr. Smith for a reason. Jeremiah is a special player, and highlights don't do it credibility. He's one of the most explosive guys, and if you're going to attach your name to anything, the way Jeremiah handles his business on and off the gridiron, I would highly recommend anybody to watch him, whether you're a Buckeye fan or not. That's not the point. This is what it means to do things at a high level. This kind of a player, he reminds us of what it really takes to raise the bar for any team or anything, and it's exactly the work off the field that makes it happen, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I will never quit attitude. That is certainly Jeremiah, and that is also the deal with Mazda's moving the game forward. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the real. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. All right, I have a few more questions and a few more comments that I want to make. And to be honest with you, it's pretty simple here. The balance on the roster, Julian saying and all that, this is a really good team. And Ohio State is always a team that's going to have their name circled on everybody's schedule. But very early in the season, I believe it's week 2 this next year. Maybe it'll change. We'll see. Ohio State travels to the University of Texas. Now, that was an ugly game last year, 14-7. Is that, A, going to be a more exciting game because both quarterbacks have a lot more experience? They were both making starts as like the main guy this past season. And 2, who's going to be the playmaker that changes it the most? And I'm leaving that open. Like Colin Simmons, if you want to say, Brian, who's the most likely guy in college football next year to make it to the Heisman ceremony as a defensive guy? Colin would be my pick. Is he going to find a way to get to Julian Sayin early? Possibly. But does it matter because Jeremiah makes a couple plays you can't teach? Also a possibility. Looking further ahead and kind of like their overall balance, I'm curious how much the run game for Ohio State gets going in that game because that'll be a barometer for the rest of the season. They have so much talent, but this is just an old rule, you can mitigate other teams' talent with the run game. That's not a newsflash. When you want to go 4-minute offense or 6-minute, 8-minute, running the football never goes out of style. I think Bo Jackson is a star in the making. He took over the starting role pretty early this past year at Ohio State. Highly touted kid out of the Cleveland area. I think he's that guy. If Ohio State's going to win, Jeremiah's got to do his thing. Julian's got to do his thing. But especially in games like Texas, at Iowa, playing USC, playing all these different teams around the country, Indiana, it's going to be a road game. That'll be a show in Bloomington. You need your run game to go with you. That road schedule, and then I believe they play Illinois at home. The run game is going to be key. Maybe that's the final question to them. I still have another, but is it going to be good enough when they play teams that are at least similar in talent? Ohio State still might have the best roster in college football. Debatable, but it'll certainly be right there. Is that run game going to be there with that offensive line in big games? Comment, question in the chat, whatever you want to do, or if you listen to this later, fire me a comment on YouTube down below. Finally, the defense. They run a complex scheme. How much will losing Caleb Downs impact Ohio State's ability to see something pre-snap and then change the defense to something that's not only adequate, but advantageous? Downs changes games before the ball is even snapped. That's one of the reasons he'll be the first safety off the board. probably a top 10 pick. Like safeties don't go super high a lot, but I think he's a future Hall of Fame player. No doubt in my mind. He literally, again, might be the smartest high school player I ever had a chance to be around. Multiple events. Like he's just a special player. So how is that going to be replaced? Are they going to use multiple guys in the back end of that defense? Because Matt Patricia's defense is not very fun to learn from what I can tell. It is very complex. Having an eraser at the back, not only as a tackler, but as somebody between the ears that is very, very talented, probably makes all the difference. And just to extend to that, do you have somebody, I mean, they're losing Arvell, Reese, losing McDonald, et cetera. Who are the leaders going to be up front? Is it John Walker? Is it somebody else? I have no idea. Who are going to be the players in the front seven on that defense that make Ohio State not just special in terms of talent and fitting the scheme, but when the chips are down or it's a 3rd and inches, how do you make game-changing plays with what's between the ears? Kind of like I was talking about with Caleb. If they can find that, there's an even better chance that, again, I'm not only going to have them as my preliminary preseason number 1, but if we hear good things in spring ball, I think not only myself, but just about everybody's going to want to rank Ohio State top 3, if not number 1 in the country. That's where I stand. So got a couple comments in the chat on a very cold day, to say the least. It is brutal outside. What do you think about the hire of Arthur Smith as coordinator? This is from Katie. What's up, Katie? This is interesting. You can look at this multiple ways. Brian Day hired Patricia. I had my questions about him. Obviously, he hit. He was very good last year. Even in the game they lost to Miami, they only gave up 17 defensive points. It wasn't like they struggled. There was a pick 6 that killed them in that game. To that end, this is a guy that Pittsburgh Steelers fans, if I remember correctly, by and large, were not very happy with. Like super not very happy with. And to put it mildly, there's a lot of pressure on him because Jeremiah, Ennis, Sayin, Bo Jackson, a pretty veteran offensive line, 2 talented tight ends coming into the mix to compete. There's no reason to think that they're not going to be explosive offensively, but got a play caller. Is he going to mesh with Ryan Day? I can go on and on. And if anybody wants to add to Katie's comment on it, fire away. But I think I hit kind of the inside straight there on some of the big questions. Ryan Day is very demanding. It's hard to work for, like a lot of elite coaches. How's he going to mesh with him? It's probably my biggest question. But they did hire him for a reason, and I'm sure they hashed some of that out during conversations and the official interview. But if they don't hit the ground running, remember, that Texas game is number 2 on the list, if I remember right. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. But second week of the season, playing Texas in Austin, if your offense is not aligned, like the coach that hires the coordinator, he's known as a QB guy, a passing game guy. Like, if it's not right, how's that going to go? I don't know. Maybe he features Bo Jackson. I'm a little leery because it's just impossible because the pro game is so different than college. How's he going to react to all of that? I don't know. It's maybe the most curious hire in terms of just literally just curiosity, because pros to college is not a guarantee to work in all of college football, especially at the major P4 level for teams that are competing to make it all the way to the national championship game at the end of the 2026 season. This is going to be fun. I'm probably more excited to see Ole Miss in spring than anything because they got so many moving parts. Ohio State's really close there. LSU, Ohio State be up there pretty high too. Katie, the college football playoffs creates incentive to produce style points in margins of victory. I don't know how many times this last year I was screaming, play the pups when games were well in hand. This is a problem for certain teams more than Ohio State. Ohio State's going to get the benefit of the doubt, but Katie's point still stands. Look, there's no friendly way to say this. The eye test is by far, I don't care what they list on that sheet, playoff, everybody's human. You're going to have your opinions from the season that you kind of gather, but it's the preseason that's more important. Nobody likes to be wrong. So if somebody has a team, I'm not going to pick one, but if somebody has a team that's on the committee for next year that they think is top 5, that's not the hot team for everybody else, they're probably going to lean on their original eye test because they want to be right. So those kinds of things happen. And to that end, they may or may not get the style points, but if it's a team that not a lot of people rank high, they might play more in terms of like their best players into the third, even maybe a little bit the fourth quarter, take some risks because they want to catch the attention of the playoff committee. We saw Miami do it a bunch. Like they threw a bomb or a pass with like 7 seconds to go against Pittsburgh to try to score more, to try to impress the committee. I mean, give me a break. Everybody tries to get style points. I don't know how that's going to work, but maybe it's not this year, but at some point, the following is going to transpire. One of these teams is going to try to get style points, and their guy's going to get hurt. May not be a Jeremiah Smith level player, and I think they'll be very sharp about pulling him out of the lineup, whether he's mad about it or not. Somebody's going to lose a player trying to get style points. It might be a BYU, somebody that came close but doesn't have the same cachet in the passing game, so they try to run it up on somebody that they're going to beat, they're going to smash. Star left tackle or their best running back, their court, whatever. Somebody gets hurt. It's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen fairly soon. To that end, what do you think? Do you like the idea if you're that team that probably needs a few more style points? I'm not a big fan, but I try to keep my players healthy. That's my opinion, but everybody has their own. So, Katie, Texas, Ohio State will be a better game in 26. Texas was finding itself towards the end of the 25 season. I agree. It'll be more fun for the fans, at least. I mean, defense has played well in that game. The offense has stunk. But I think Ohio State kind of sat on the ball because the Texas offense in that game last year was just abysmal. So I expect more fireworks. The game will be in the 20s. The over-under of that game will be like 51, kind of traditional. But, I mean, they scored 21 points last year. That was a terrible game to watch. Let's see here. Sooner or later, this is from Katie, sooner or later, a quarter will go down chasing style points. That's what I was just talking about, and Katie's right. What if it's Ole Miss this next year? Let's say Trinidad Chambliss gets banged up. And they got Deuce Knight in the game. And they've got one loss already at Ole Miss. They don't know when Chambliss is coming back. He's got like a high ankle sprain or something. You got one other quarterback that you really trust, and Deuce. Do you play him in a game you're up 31-7 going into the fourth quarter, or do you put in the third stringer? You're like 14th in the rankings or something. It could be another team. You get whatever one you want. You're on your backup quarterback, but you're smoking some team. Maybe it is your starting quarterback. Like, what do you do if you're like that team? It's like 14-18 in the rankings, and it's week 10. Those are tough questions, man, because it only takes one goofy play for it to go wrong. To be honest, most injuries are either A, non-contact, like you're trying to make somebody miss, or somebody falls on your lower extremity, your hip, your knee, your thigh, your ankle, your Achilles. That's a really tough one. Your shin. Something takes a pounding just because of awkwardness. Somebody behind you falls on you. It's about the most common thing. The more reps you're in a game, the higher the propensity for you to have some kind of struggle with an injury. It's just the way it is. And there's really not a lot you can do about it besides take the chance or not. It's 50-50. The style points matter, though. So it's a tough decision for coaches. What if Miami loses a quarterback? They have nothing behind their starter. Well, I'm assuming Mensah's going to end up there. Luke Nickel would be next, most likely this next year. Darren Coleman's the true freshman, one of those two. Miami's where they are. I think they know that. If they get Mensah and he gets hurt, are they likely to make the playoff? Their schedule's not that great. It would depend on when they got hurt. Like they played Notre Dame late October, early November. That's the one game I'm going to pick them to lose because those teams are about equal. I'll just go with the home team. But if they lose another game because they lost the quarterback, that puts the playoff committee in a tough spot. If, again, they get Mensah and he would be expected back, how do you rank him? All that stuff. I think Luke Nickel's pretty good. He's a kid I covered. He's from Milton High School. Really good program in Georgia. Won state championship. He was Cam Newton's quarterback for a couple of years, 7-on-7 for C1N. Great kid, great family. But, yeah, it's tough because just like any other team, Miami's in the same spot. Who the quarterback is, your guy, gets like 98% of the first-team reps. You can never even remotely, with the way the college rules work, get enough reps with just practices. That's why the offseason is the most important part of the year, because coaches kind of give them an idea what they want them to do, and they go work out by themselves. It's reps, reps, reps. If you got 1,000 extra reps, it's not near enough. You can never have enough passing reps. So when you go into the middle of the season, you're going well, and then your quarterback gets injured, yeah, good luck. It's really, really hard, man, because they just haven't had the same amount of reps. Now, they get some in the summer, but it's still going to be the lion's share for the starter. That's why football is so dynamic and why so many people are intrigued, because you're always one play away for being out to lunch. I mean, that's just the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it. With that, I thank you very much, everybody that stopped in today to check it out, and anybody listening later. Please like the pod. Please make sure that you subscribe, share it with your friends. We've got to do a bunch of these. I will be gone tomorrow. I'm not going to do one tomorrow. It's my final day for my move. For those of you watching, my apartment is, except for a handful of items I've got on my counter in front of me, and there's a lamp back here, there's hardly anything left. I'm making my final move. Tomorrow I get done. But please like and subscribe. We appreciate it. We will see you again soon right here on the Portal Podcast.